Dr. McGrew, I've always wondered what is the best way to get a large number of lay-level people interested in apologetics?
That's a big question, and when I have the answer, I'll let you know. No, but I can say a few things that might be of some use. The very first thing that you have to do is find some people, doesn't have to be a large number, who can be genuinely interested in it.
Right.
And I think there are a lot of good ways to do that. There are some very accessible ways of showing them the need. Most people will know someone who's drifted away from the faith, maybe a family member, maybe a child. I remember speaking at one church and just giving an example of someone who had been raised in a church and then had wandered away during college. After I spoke there, the secretary of the church came to the pastor in tears and said, "That was my son. That's what happened to my son."
That's powerful.
So there are people, and some of them are parents, grandparents, and some of them are young people who can be engaged and interested. I like to start with things like the argument from undesigned coincidences because it's so easy to explain, and people get it really right away, and they get kind of excited about it. They want to make some use of that. And so I would suggest start with that. Start just with the few people you can find who are interested. Set up a little study. It could be in church, could be outside of church, and get them excited enough to talk to other people they know. Let it spread out.
Right.
Word of mouth is always going to be your best way of getting in. That's how I started getting into churches. You know, after I got my PhD, I thought, oh, this is great. I'd love to do some apologetics talks. And so I would have students say, oh, you should speak at my church. I'd say, that's great. Here's my email address. I waited 16 years before I got asked to speak in a church.
Wow.
And the way that it happened when it finally did was that I knew someone as a personal friend, and she got excited about it. She took the initiative at her church and said, we need to have Tim come and speak. And that is how my speaking in churches began. So that personal contact inside the churches is always the best way. And getting other people interested because someone they know and like and maybe interact with regularly is excited about it, that's going to be much better than you're trying to go in and say, hi, you don't really know me, you might not even know my name, but let me tell you about apologetics. Probably not going to be your most successful approach. So I would suggest that. I would suggest take a few people, start small. Jesus did it. Seems to have worked out okay for him. And get them excited. Start with some things that are very accessible and easy. Quantum gravity is not the place that you would start the discussion. Start with stuff that's, you know, down on the lower shelf that everybody can get and that they feel they can walk out the door and use. Teach them a little bit of Greg Koukl's tactics. Put them onto his book, maybe the videos that he's done on that. That's a really good way of helping people overcome their shyness, their sense, oh, I couldn't do that. Yeah, you can actually. You can have conversations, ask questions, listen to the answers. That works really well.
Right.
And then give them content that they are comfortable with, that they can master. Don't try to make them masters of more than they can handle. And that is the best way I know of to get a group of people excited, and then it'll fan out from there. And it'll be in God's hands at that point. But that's the best way I know of trying to do it.
Okay, and do you have a few books you'd recommend for beginners?
Oh, wow. So there are lots of really good books, and a lot depends on where people are and how much they want to read. For people who are beginners but are really eager to read a lot, Frank Turek's book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, Turek and Geisler, is a really good book because it packs so much into one place. For people who want to read only something very short, there's a little book you can find on the Library of Historical Apologetics website, historicalapologetics.org, called The Four Gospels from a Lawyer's Standpoint. It's 52 pages long. You can read it aloud to yourself on a lazy afternoon and still take a nap before dinner. It's not that hard. And it's written for people who have no special background, very clearly written, not talking down to them, but just it's a lawyer telling you how he sees this from an evidential standpoint. That's a great little point of entry. And there are many, many more. People have different interests. Find out what different people want. Are you interested in how we got the Bible that we have? Did you want something on why we should believe that Jesus is God? Do you need answers to some objections somebody's throwing at you at school or that you're hearing on the internet? These are different people. They're going to need something different, and there are different books I would recommend for each of them. But there are accessible points of entry on all of those subjects.
Nice. Thank you, Dr. McGrew.
You bet.